everyone, it's your girl, Miss Analytical. I'm coming to you straight out of NYC on this beautiful Wednesday evening. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and I'm going to begin my review on the classic film, 6 Degrees of Separation. Now, before I go into reviewing the film, I'm going to say that this channel is new, and this is going to be my first movie review. I really was trying to debate which movie I was going to do. I was actually going to do it on a movie that was released last year. But then I realized, I could also do it on movies that are classics. So this is going to be like a movie review on a classic film. So 6 Degrees of Separation is a film that was released in the latter part of 1993. And it's based on a play with the same name. And the play starred Courtney B. Vance, who all of you all know is the husband of Angela Bassett. And the play was, it was a hit. And if I'm not mistaken, Courtney B. Vance was nominated for a Tony Award for the performance. They used to air it on PBS, Masterpiece Theater, and it was a big hit. And the play was well received that they decided to make a film version. But they didn't cast Courtney B. Vance. What they actually did, though, was they actually had Courtney B. Vance star in an episode of Law and Order that was loosely based kind of on his character on 6 Degrees of Separation. But I'm going to talk about that later on in the review. But Will Smith was a person that eventually was casted to star in the movie. And I will say his performance was really good, but I'm going to break down my issues with the film. So the film version is different from the play version. In that with the film version, it's really dealing with like the couple speaking about their interactions. And it's like they're reminiscing about it. And it's like they're talking about him while they're doing flashbacks, while they're talking about what happened. So it's like flashbacks within flashbacks within flashbacks, okay? So the film is based on the real life story of a man named David Hampton, a con artist and a robber who convinced a number of people in the 1980s that he was the son of iconic actor Sidney Poitier. Now, in 1983, he basically stopped by the apartment of a woman and a man named Inger McCabe Elliott and Osborne Elliott, respectively. And he basically conned them into spending the night with him at their house. But the next day, he was caught in bed with another man, and they called the police. And they basically wanted their $50 back, and they didn't get it. But they told their friend named John Garre, who was a writer, their story. And he basically wrote the play a couple of years later, and it made its debut on Broadway, which is actually Lincoln Center. It made its debut around like 1987 or 88. So the plot itself is basically revolves around a couple with a different name. So their names are Flan and Weezer Kittredge, and it's portrayed by Donald Sutherland and Dr. Channer, respectively. They're the parents of 3 children. 2 children who are at Harvard and a girl that goes to Groton. So Groton is actually this private school. And the children are not happy with their life. They basically think that their life is robotic and that their parents are putting them in these really good schools and universities to make themselves look good. Not the children, but the parents. So what happens is the children actually talk their business too much to their friends. And one of the friends basically does not really, I'm not going to say he don't like them, but he doesn't really care too much for them because he's in the closet. So he sort of gets back at them by basically meeting up with this con artist guy, and he tells him everything about all his friends. He tells them who they are because the con artist wants to get in on, hey, you want me to be your man. And I don't have no problem with it, but I want something in return. So I want you to basically tell me everything about your friends because I want money. I'm a hustler and this is what I do. So that friend is actually AKA his boy toy, and that's the guy named Paul. And Paul is the guy who was based on David Hampton, portrayed by Will Smith. So Paul shows up at Weezer and Flan's house, talks about his father and everything, brags. And at this very moment, Flan has a business deal going with a person who's portrayed by Ian McKellen Jr. What happens is he basically tells us, I don't have nowhere to stay because my father, he's a famous person, but we don't have the best relationships. So he's like, who is your father? He's like, Sidney Poitier. Oh my God, Sidney Poitier. Yes. And he's going to he's going to direct the movie version of Cats. So they got hyped because Paul basically said that he was going to cast them in the movie Cats. So he tells him he doesn't have nowhere to go and that he needs $50. And then he gets in the house because he stabs himself on purpose. Now, they let him sleep in the house after he cooks them dinner. He talks about the Saison. And then the next day, Weezer wakes up and she's hearing a thump, the thump, the thump, the thump, the thump. And he's having sex with a white man. They kick him out the house. But instead of just, kicking him out the house and just leaving it as is, they basically want to know more about this Paul. So they find out that Paul is a con artist, and they really find out through their children because he conned everybody up on the Upper East Side. So what really happens is that they think that they know everything about the mystery of Paul, but then there's a woman who basically comes to them, and her name is, I believe her name is Elizabeth. And Elizabeth talks about her interactions with Paul. So Paul changed the story, and he basically says that Flan Kitteridge is his father, and that he won't deal with him, and that he treats his white wife and children better than him. So Elizabeth and her boyfriend Rick, played by Eric Thal, they basically soak up and drink his Kool-Aid, and they pretty much feel bad for him. And he tells them that he's homeless, and they invite him to their shack on the Lower East Side. Now, they really like Paul, but they tell Paul, listen, you're going to pretty much have to, find a place to stay eventually because you can't stay here because it's really tight. But the boyfriend, Rick, he's a little suspect. And I'm going to explain to you why. Because what happens is he steals money from Elizabeth, her life savings, because she comes to New York to be an actress. And Rick is coming there to be a musician. So they're trying to have their big break. So he takes the money out of Elizabeth's bank account because she leaves her wallet around, and he rents tuxedos for him and Rick. So they go to this place called the Rainbow Room, and they basically go out on a date, but Rick thinks that they're just hanging out. So Paul basically flirts with him, asks him to dance. So they're dancing, and they get kicked out because two same-sex couples can't dance because it's not legal to be gay at this time in the 1980s. So they get kicked out, and they go riding on the through the carriage, on a horse carriage, and then Paul turns him out, even though Rick didn't want it because he was like, I'm straight. And Paul lets him know, that's why I want to do this with you. So Rick confesses everything, Elizabeth, because she wants to know why my money is missing, what's going on. I know Paul took it. So he tells her everything that happens, and lo and behold, she's not dealing with him. She wants him gone. She wants him out the house. She kicks him to the curb. And Elizabeth basically finishes the story telling Louisa and Flan that he basically jumped out the apartment because they lived on like the top floor, and he basically, if you know what I mean. So it was over for him. Now, in the end, Paul basically tells Weezer, I really liked you as a person, and you introduced me to new things. So Weezer's like, turn yourself in, do stuff like that. Flan wants him to go to jail. But Weezer has a soft spot because she basically has white guilt, and she really wants Paul to get the help and treatment that he deserves. So what occurs is that in the end, Paul gets arrested, and they, as in Louisa and Flan, they have this meeting with a woman who wants to buy art from Flan, who was portrayed by an iconic socialite named Kitty Carlisle. And it ends with them leaving, and after Weezer tells all the white privilege members off about their privilege. She checks them. So the credits roll. Now, as far as the critics' response, people loved the performance. But they didn't like how it abandoned the premise, like the foundation of the play. And that's what a lot of people talked about. Also, they really praised Will Smith. This was Will Smith's first dramatic role. Not his first role, because his first movie role was in an independent film. Then it was in a film called Made in America, which was a hit. But this was the film that changed the course of his career, because this is when they were getting ready to cast him in more serious movie roles, because the next serious movie that he starred in was Independence Day, which was a blockbuster. Then, my favorite, Enemy of the State. Yeah, I love that film. But 6 Degrees of Separation, it flopped. It was made on a budget of $15 million, but it only grossed $6.4 million. It isn't even like I wouldn't say it's a classic film, because you could watch it in universities and colleges, but it's not really like a favorite amongst movie watchers. But it was nominated for an Academy Award, and Stockton Channing got the nomination. However, they wanted to actually nominate Will Smith, but the reason why Will Smith couldn't get the nomination was because Will Smith actually, his role, he actually got second billing, but it wasn't enough. He wasn't there that much to be the best actor, but it wasn't enough to be best supporting actor, because he got second billing over Donald Sutherland. So what ended up happening was that they decided to basically not nominate him at all. I personally think they should have nominated him for Best Supporting Actor for this role, because he was really, 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 really good, in my opinion. He played that sociopath very, 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 very well. I'm just going to be honest. He played that to the core. He played that to the core. I wouldn't have wanted him to have his first Oscar win on that, but he should have been nominated. That's just my take on that. Now, here's where I think the movie lacked. They should have kept it with the roots of the film. I don't see what the problem was with that. Of the play. I don't see what the problem was with that. I think that if they would have done that, I think this film would have grossed more money, because I think that when you take a play and you try to change it around, you're basically playing with fire. That's just my take. Because the play was really, really good. It really, really was good. And Courtney B. Vance did a great job acting. And by the way, it was produced in 1990. It was in 1990. And Starker Channing was in the play. She was the original Weezer. She was on off-Broadway, Broadway, West End, and the film. So that's probably why she was in the play. I'm in the movie. Now, Donald Sutherland was only in the movie. Courtney B. Vance was on Broadway. And Will Smith was in the film. But in the revival, Allison Janney was in the play, and Corey Hawkins, who played Dr. Dre, he was in the play. And I really would say that they might in the future make another film of this, probably years down the line, but I doubt it because it wasn't really, and Courtney B. Vance was nominated, but it wasn't iconic as a movie. It's not like West Side Stories where you can make a readaptation of it because it was such a hit, the first one. I don't think they probably would. But what I will say is that this was a great opportunity for Will Smith. And he did a great job. And it helps his career. And now he's an Oscar winner, regardless of what happened. And I think that this movie, when you watch it, it really makes you want to watch the play. So I'm going to watch the play. I'm going to really, really, really go in there into the vault and try to find the play with Mr. Courtney B. Vance, and I'm going to watch it. But I think that to rate this film out of, I don't want to do the 5-star thing. I'm going to do 10. Out of 10 stars, I'm going to give it, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give it a 4. As far as the movie. Like, I don't even think I would watch it again unless I had to, but I used to really, really like the movie, but I think I outgrew it. I don't know. I hadn't seen it in about 13 years. But for me, I prefer the play. And with that being said, it's your girl, Miss Analytical. I'm signing out. This is May TVP 2.0. Follow, like, hit the notification, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you soon. Later.